On the night of September 17, 1961, the skies above Central Africa carried with them a mission of peace, and a secret that has haunted history ever since. Dag Hammarskjöld, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, was en route to negotiate a ceasefire in one of the world's most volatile regions. The Congo, newly independent from Belgium, had descended into chaos, torn apart by secessionist movements, foreign mercenaries, and Cold War rivalries. Hammarskjöld, a quiet yet determined Swedish diplomat, believed he could broker peace where others had failed. His destination was Ndola, in northern Rhodesia, now Zambia. He would never arrive. Hammarskjöld's plane, a DC-6 named Albertina, left Leopoldville shortly after 4 p.m. on September 17th. On board were 15 people, including his aides, guards, and crew. They carried no weapons, only documents, maps, and hope for negotiations with Moise Shom, leader of the breakaway Katanga province. The stakes were high. The Congo crisis had become a proxy battlefield, with the West and the Soviet Union each maneuvering for control of its vast mineral wealth. Hammarskjöld's role was not merely diplomatic, it was symbolic. He was the figure who stood between peace and wider war. At 10:51 p.m., as the Albertina prepared for its final descent into Ndola, radio contact was lost. Minutes later, villagers reported hearing a loud explosion and seeing flames streak across the night sky. By morning, search teams located the wreckage in a forested area just 10 miles from the airport. The crash site was grim. 14 of the 16 aboard were dead, their bodies burned, scattered among the broken fuselage. One survivor, an American security officer named Harold Julian, was pulled from the wreckage alive but gravely injured. Before dying days later, he made statements suggesting there had been an explosion before impact, words that fueled decades of suspicion. Hammarskjöld's body was found thrown clear of the wreck, dressed immaculately as always, a pack of playing cards scattered near him. His briefcase, filled with documents, was recovered. Photographs of the crash site revealed strange details. A playing card placed against his collar, like holes in parts of the wreckage, and reports of bullet wounds that were later denied or downplayed. Official inquiries began immediately, but their conclusions left more questions than answers. Rhodesian investigators declared it a tragic accident, blaming pilot error for misjudging the descent. The UN's own inquiry was more cautious, stating it could not rule out sabotage or attack. Witnesses from nearby villages reported seeing a smaller aircraft in the sky at the same time as Hammarskjöld's DC-6, some even claiming it fired upon the larger plane. Others described a blinding flash of light just before the crash. These accounts were largely dismissed in the initial investigations, yet the suspicions never faded. The Congo at the time was a crucible of international intrigue. Mining companies, mercenaries, intelligence agencies, and foreign powers all had interests in Katanga, whose secession threatened UN authority. Hammarskjöld, determined to keep the Congo unified under international guidance, stood directly in the way. Theories soon emerged that his death was no accident, but an assassination orchestrated by those who saw him as a threat. One theory points to European mercenaries working for Katanga, some of whom were skilled pilots and known to be hostile to the UN presence. Another accuses Western mining corporations, fearful that Hammarskjöld's diplomacy would cut off their lucrative access to copper and uranium. Declassified documents have fueled further suspicion of intelligence involvement. Both the CIA and MI6 have been accused, though no proof has ever been established. Even the Soviet Union, though less directly implicated, had an interest in destabilizing Western control. The decades that followed only deepened the mystery. In the 1990s, South African archives revealed files suggesting a plot named Operation Celeste, allegedly involving MI5, the CIA, and South African security services in a conspiracy to eliminate Hammarskjöld. Witnesses in Zambia later testified that they had indeed seen another plane in the air that night, possibly a Foga Majester jet. In 2015, a new UN investigation was launched, spearheaded by former Tanzanian Chief Justice Mohamed Chande Othman. This inquiry reviewed fresh evidence, including eyewitness testimony, forensic analysis, and declassified intelligence files. It concluded that the possibility of an attack, including the use of another aircraft, could not be dismissed. And that critical evidence may still be hidden in government archives around the world. To this day, the death of Dag Hammarskjöld remains unresolved. Was it a tragic accident caused by miscommunication and fatigue, or a carefully executed assassination to silence a man who stood against powerful interests? The truth lies buried in a web of Cold War secrecy, geopolitical intrigue, and the silence of those who may have known more than they ever admitted. What endures is the image of Hammarskjöld, a diplomat who carried himself with dignity, who believed in peace when it seemed impossible, and who paid the ultimate price for that belief. His death not only robbed the United Nations of a visionary leader, it left behind one of the great unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. A question mark over the forest near Ndola, where metal fire and ambition collided in the dark African night. That's it for today. Some crimes scar history, some mysteries haunt forever. Until the next mystery, stay vigilant.